welcome back to the Try Time podcast. I'm Matt,
And I'm Callum.
and today is episode 18, Super League Preview Part 2. In today's episode, we're going to look at the Super League table, well, our predictions for it, and find out if your club is closer to being champions or being in the championship.
Ooh.
Now, for today, we're going to start at the top of the table and work down, so no doubt you'll want to hear your team's name as early as possible. Anything else to add, or shall we dive into who we think will be champions?
I reckon we just get straight into it. We've got 12 positions to get through, so let's start off with the most important one, number one. What are you saying?
Who's winning the dinner plate? Well, I think we're going to have a different winner this year. I think St Helens are going to lose their crown, and it's going to be their pie-eating neighbours that are going to steal it from them. I have Wigan to top the league.
That's interesting because that is the exact same as me. I also have Wigan to top the league. I don't think many people are going to look past Wigan for the league leaders. I think they're going to have a solid season. Sometimes they've struggled for consistency in league in past couple of years, but they always seem to sort of bring it back towards the end, getting playoffs like they always just seem to do. They always do well. Grand final last year. But I guess unlucky not to win it really, or
definitely.
Being with more of a shout of it. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about this. One of the strongest squads in the league.
Yeah,
it's going to be close, but
yeah, when you're bringing in John Bateman as well, a player of that calibre who's impacted Canberra so much in NRL, bringing him in,
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I think they're going to be unstoppable at parts this year. Whether I think they'll win the grand final or not, that's a separate sort of thing. But I think league leaders definitely for Wigan for me.
Yeah, I couldn't have said much more than that myself, really. So let's crack on with number 2. Who have you got in second?
I've gone with. They'll hope it's their year. It is Warrington.
Really?
Yeah, Warrington in second. I feel like they always seem to be in that playoff sort of picture, and I always seem to tip them to do well in the league because
I was going to say,
like
did you not have them to win last year?
I had them to top the league but not win the grand final. I had Saints to win grand final. I had them at top league. They didn't do quite as well as sort of hoped, but the season was majorly affected. So I feel like last year.
I'm going to say something that I said last year to you. No Gelling, no party.
Well, last year they had Gelling for parts.
Well, yeah, true, but I mean, there were worse without him.
I think obviously it's similar in a way to Wigan that they've had a coach there a few years now, implemented their tactics. They've sort of got a group of players. Yeah, they're making changes, but neither of these teams making massive controversial changes. Wigan have only brought 2 in. Wire only brought 3 in, and only 2 of them are really probably going to start in first team, being Mulhern and Inglis. I feel like they're really sort of moulding a squad that's been together a couple of years that they can really do something. That's why I'm.
Shall we get on to my second place?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, I think they might not defend their league leaders shield, but I think they're going to be still right in the conversation. I have St Helens in second.
Very interesting. Go on, why?
I don't think there's much to say on this one either. Very strong squad. I'd say them and Wigan definitely have the best teams on paper. I don't know, I just don't think they're going to quite edge it out over a full season as well as Wigan. I think they've got a few more additions in that first team. 1 or 2 of them don't click straight away, then they could start to fall a few 4-6 points behind Wigan. That's going to be hard to catch, I think, against this Wigan team.
Yeah, I see that. I definitely think St Helens is a great pick, and when we get on to where I have them, I think the reason why I have them isn't because I think they've got a worse squad than Warrington. I just think, I'll get to that when we get to that position. So
let's see whether we have got to that position. Who have you got in third?
I have actually got St Helens, so we are in that position. So that is basically with St Helens, and I kind of said it last year, a team that's won the grand final and dominated the league as they did the year before last, I thought would actually drop off in the league and think, we'll get a solid playoff position, second, third, and then we'll just smash it in the grand final. Obviously they did win the grand final, but they obviously did do better in the league as well. So this year I think they'll fall off a bit in the league. Not purposefully, but I think it just sort of thing that happens, like champions fatigue almost. But third, I think they'll definitely be in the playoff picture. Who have you got third?
Well, call it a bit of bias or whatever, I have Leeds in third.
Do explain.
quality half-back pairing. Luke Gale really showed his class again last season. It was, to say that he missed an entire year, it was exactly like 2017 Gale again.
Yeah.
He added that leadership and, more importantly, that ability for someone to kick a blooming drop goal, which now we've got Golden Point is more crucial than ever. Yeah. I mean, you can already say Luke Gale's boot has won Leeds silverware. As much as we all joke he goes missing in the big games, and to be honest, other than that drop goal, the Challenge Cup final wasn't his best game, but it's that little something extra that Leeds have lacked, and they looked really strong last season without. I think take out the disruption and the fact that there was at least 2 games where I think the average age of that Leeds squad was probably barely out of nappies, then they were definitely up there. I think the pack's got better. Say Manafani will be a big loss, but to replace him with Tetevano and King, we're not even going to attempt that last name.
Yeah.
Then, for me, that is strength. This is a team that's got better, and I think that will. I don't know if they're going to quite reach Saints and Wigan over a full season, but again, I think they'll be there come the knockout rugby, because we know that seems to be where Leeds' specialty is. But I don't think they'll be far off in the league either. I'm going third.
Yeah, I definitely think what you've said is fair for Leeds. I think the squad depth definitely shines through as well in the team. Like, they've got them young players, like you're saying, the good young players. In times in the past where Leeds have had injury crises and just not really had the players there, they've had to bring these young players through probably a bit prematurely, but that's benefiting them now because they've been there, they've done it now. You know what I mean? So I think
they've got a really good crop actually. We talk about the old golden generation, and I'm sure there are plenty of clubs up and down the country that are picking out a few stars that they expect to make the grade this year. But I think Leeds more than any have got some really interesting names that probably are not as far from the first team as what the squad numbers suggest. One I'm going to shout here. I would love to see. I mean, I don't wish an injury on any of our players or anything like that, obviously. But for whatever the circumstances, I would love to see Hanley and Tyndall get a good run out as our wingers. Nothing against Tom Briscoe, but I think that could be quality.
Yeah, just that something a bit different. Like, I guess it's exciting, isn't it, when you've got young players coming.
It reminds me of a young Ash Hanley, but with the ability to run through a broken defence like Jack Walker.
Yeah, I get you.
Anyway, enough about Leeds' up and coming crop. Shall we move on to fourth?
Yeah, 4. Who have you got?
Well, I've got your second place pick. I've got Warrington.
Oh, that's interesting because I've got your third place pick. I've got Leeds, so we've got the same top 4.
I think we're fairly safe to say that we think this top 4's pretty locked on there.
Yeah, 100%. I think these are probably the 4 top 5 locks, if you get what I mean. The other place I think's up for grabs. I think these 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Are the ones to watch out for.
Yeah, for me, Warrington, they are a little bit ahead of 5th and the rest of the chasing pack, but I just think they're not quite on the same peg as the other 3. I think it's going to be tough for them this year.
Yeah.
I think some of the losses, I mean, I know Deck Patton is not a standout name on the team sheet, but I think that will still be a big loss in terms of the depth, and I think they might struggle to get the same sort of impact out of Inglis that a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, that's a big factor. I think if Inglis hits the ground running, I think they are going to be a team to watch out for. If not, then they may struggle, but I guess we just have to wait and see for that.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on this previously, but Warrington's history with big names coming up from the NRL is a bit more checkered than I think a lot of other clubs. Sandow's first season was pretty appalling. I mean, Tyrone Roberts, Bryson Goodwin, neither of them really hit massive strides in Super League.
Yeah, there weren't as sort of. There was still there was solid players, but there wasn't as sort of overly outstanding as expected.
Yeah, even the props, Waterhouse, Asatazi, I don't recall them really setting the league on fire in the same way that we've seen others do.
I mean, Ashton Sims, but I guess that was kind of a different sort of signing, I think, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, a bit in the sense of Mitch Garber. I don't think he ever came over and you thought straight away this guy's going to be the star in this team.
Yeah, just a solid player. I get what you
mean. Yeah, not like when he went to Toronto and arguably was. But do you want to add anything more to what I put on Leeds, or are you happy to go into
really similar sort of stuff? I think they've got a good enough squad, good enough young players coming through as well to get top 4. I've put them there because I think with Leeds there's always sort of the issue of, can they get a bit of consistency? Can they? Obviously you've said, you know, on paper like Tetevano's a really good sort of, it could be an improvement on Arthur, but it's if he hits the ground running as well. There's a lot of factors involved, and with Leeds, I think in recent seasons at times they've struggled to really sort of just get a good consistent season. It could be this year, it might not. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah,
I'd agree with that. I think now we're going to get into the more interesting picks. So who have you got in 5th?
5th place for me, I have got Catalan.
Now that's interesting because I also have Super League's favourite immigrants in 5th.
Oh, that's it. So we have actually got the same teams in the top 5.
We've got the same top 5. I've both gone for Catalan.
I think that's interesting. What have you got to say on Catalan? What do you reckon?
I think they were a good team last year. Okay, they played very dirty at times, but they know how to make it work. They're a very physical unit. They've lost
definitely
a lot of key personnel this year, and I think that ultimately is why I think they're a bit of a step away from the top 4. But same coach, same system. We know they do well at home, and like I said, they were the team to watch last year. I mean, we can argue all day about whether they should have competed, given they didn't do the 15 games and all that, but that's all irrelevant now.
Yeah, hopefully we won't have them problems this season.
Oh, blooming hope not, if not just cancel the season already, because that were a farce.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they are going to regress from last season, but I don't think they're going to regress enough to fall out of this top 5. But I think they will be a bit of a gulf in class away from the top 4.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think last season they really impressed me. Last season I thought they were really good to watch. They've lost a few key pieces in there, but I think replacements are there. I think they're still going to have a strong squad, and I've got 2 words for why I think they've done so well last year and they're doing so well now, and that's Sam Tompkins. Because say what you want about Sam Tompkins, whether you like him as a person, whether you like him as a player, whatever, that don't matter. Catalan are getting the best rugby out of him, I think, at the minute. He was absolutely.
I think this is the best he has played since before we were moved to New Zealand.
Yeah, 100%. And he's been class, and that fair play to him. You know, you might not like him as a person or as a player or whatever, but he's been quality.
No, I agree that I've never met the guy personally to make my own judgment on him, but from what I hear, there's quite a lot to not like about him, but you can't deny the class there. I do think they are going to miss Remy Castille though. I don't see a natural replacement in the leadership that he provides.
Yeah,
and as good as Tompkins is on the pitch, this might sound like one of the biggest cliches in the book, but can he actually speak to all the French players? How good is their language barrier?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think a lot of the Catalans French players are alright with that because obviously they've played in Super.
They've got an English coach, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I think that's actually not as much of a problem as people might think it is. Do you know what I mean? But
it's an interesting one to consider. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think they'll know all the English turn of phrase like, I don't know, pull your finger out your ass or something, the same way as what the Wigan contingent at Catalans will, but
yeah, definitely. I get what you mean, but yeah, I think Catalan solid pick for 5th, and I think they'll have a decent season, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, let's see who misses out then. 6th place.
I've got Castleford.
For God's sake, we've gone for the same team again.
Is it this predictable?
I think it might be at this point.
I guess this makes good content that we've actually both put the same one, so we can speak about the actual the same team at the same time. It does work well. So what do you reckon to Castleford then? Why are they just missing out on top 5?
To be honest, I don't necessarily think it'll be just missing out. I think they'll be lucky to hold off some of the teams in pursuit for them. I think it does come down to ultimately having a better quality of player throughout the positions 1 to 17. Evalds is going to, I imagine, be a really good addition for them if he clicks.
Yeah,
Gareth O'Brien will, I imagine, only get stronger. Truman's But, well, there was comments today he wants to win silverware and get picked for England, so he's probably playing for a move to a top 14 this season.
Yeah, definitely. See what you mean. Like, they've got players with things to prove. They've got players in the prime. Truman, Evans, players that have got a lot to give. And
I think they've got a really good halfback combination as well. I mean, I know you're not Danny Richardson's biggest fan, but
no,
I've said before, I think he is a quality player, and I think that will show again this season.
I question Danny Richardson as a signing forecast because I think at St Helens he was good, but I don't think he was as good as people said he was. But I actually think I'm going to give him all the credit that he proved me wrong because he proved out to be a quality signing. I think him and Truman's a really interesting dynamic. And how young them two are as a pairing as well. If they can get this pairing together for 5 years, then you could be, and I know this is a big stretch, you could be looking at your classic, your Maguire-Burrow combination, that sort of thing. If you can keep that going for so long with how young they are,
there was a comment I made last season that I think I'm going to disagree with myself, but not as much as I probably want to. And I remember saying last year, I think it was on the pod, but it might not be. I would have rather Leeds signed Danny Richardson than Luke Gale, was what I said last year.
Yeah.
Do I still agree with that 12 months later? Not necessarily. Gale was better than expected for me. But that still does not take away from the season that Danny Richardson has, and I still rate him just as highly as I did last year.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's going to be it's going to be exciting to watch. A good young halfback pairing.
I think as well, I mean, I imagine you've gone for the same sort of thing. The teams around them are going to be the likes of Salford, Huddersfield, Hull.
Well, we'll have to see, won't we?
All these clubs that we've still got to go. You're talking halfback combinations that for me just aren't as good. I don't think Lolohea and Brown are on the same level.
Yeah,
same
I guess they've
again
got
with
Patton as well.
Caesar and... Yeah, that's true. I mean, who is Huddersfield's other halfback off the top of my head? I can't remember. Oh yeah, Gaskell. I mean, lower end Super League for me, but that's why Cats are safe. Anything to add, or shall we crack on with 7?
Crack on at 7. Who've you got?
Okay. Well, speaking of Brown and Lolohea, I have Salford in 7th place.
Right, that's interesting because I have Hull FC, who I think do have a good halfback combination.
Oh, thank God we've gone for something different.
Yeah. So why Salford then?
I think they're a team that are making strong, steady progress, and at the risk of sounding like Theresa May there, they've made 2 finals in as many years. You don't get that without being a good team. I think the league looked harsh on Salford last year.
Yeah.
It made them look a lot worse than they were. And I think they're a very solid side. They do the basics better than most teams in the competition.
Yeah. I
don't think there's much more to add really than that. Yeah.
When I get on sort of where I've got Salford in the league, I think I'll sort of touch on the points I want to make about Salford and why I don't think they necessarily are in like this position, the 7th place. So obviously I've gone Hull FC, and we talked about halfback combinations. I mean, you've got Sneed, you know what you're going to get from Sneed. You've got obviously Jake Connor there, you know what you're going to get from Jake Connor, and then they've brought in Reynolds as well. So I think that is strong, and I think we touched very much on last week's pod when we went through the signings on how exciting Hull FC are going to be, despite the fact that they're not, maybe on paper, don't have the strongest looking squad, and there's going to be a lot of younger players like Hull FC Academy players playing, but I think that's only a positive. So
I think we are going to agree on this for both of our picks. A lot of this is going to depend on how they adapt to the new coaching systems in place. We don't really know what to expect from either of these guys.
Yeah, that's true. But 2 guys that haven't proper been the first team coach in Super League, so
it could be interesting. Yeah, definitely. We could have, one or both of these could end up being another David Furner, and they wind up near the bottom of the league halfway through. We just don't know at this point.
Hard to call for some of these teams.
But yeah, okay, that's interesting. Let's go in. Who have you got in 8th?
8th place for me is Huddersfield.
Oh God, we're back to the same picks again.
Huddersfield. That's fine. It shows that, hopefully we're going to be right then, I guess. But
we're both going to look like idiots.
Yeah, true. Go on. Why
Huddersfield for me is a team that this is a real team of two halves. There's half of it where I think this team should be pushing towards Castleford and Catalan potentially for 5th. And then there's the other half that I think this is barely even Super League standard.
Yeah.
For me, this is a good squad that's just not complete. It's like, it's just, yeah. For every player like Aiden Caesar that is good enough to hang at in one of those top 4 clubs and would do a job for any of those, there's a Lee Gaskell, who, no disrespect to Lee Gaskell, but the days where he could hang in one of those top 4 clubs were probably over about 5 years ago.
Yeah, I get you.
They've lost Ashton Golden as well, which is going to be a big blow. I mean, I know
it's only 2 injury, but it is important.
Yeah, but I mean, this is Ashton Golden. Sadly, the lad seems to never do short-term injuries.
Yeah, that is true. It's an igloo.
I mean, we saw a little bit of what they got from their new signing, Ashel Bolt, last year, and when he was at Salford with Watson, and I think he looks pretty good actually. There's promising signs there.
Yeah, I think Watson. What you've mentioned about Watson there, I think is important. Like, if Watson can do what he did at Salford in his Huddersfield side, which technically on paper you could say is a better side than the Salford side, then I think
that's a big claim.
Going to have a strong season.
I don't necessarily agree with that. That's a better side than what he had at Salford last year, but we'll see. I think again, I just think Salford have a team full of a lot more experienced professionals and players that don't necessarily play as exciting of a brand of rugby in the sense of it's a lot more well thought out, planned and intelligent play.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That for me is easier to adapt to a new coach than what we've seen in recent years from Huddersfield, which has at times looked very panicky. We saw last year they can absolutely dominate a game for 60 minutes and just completely implode and come away with nothing. We're at 25-24 at Headingley when they were 24-6 up or something stupid.
Yeah,
and they lost it. Is Watson going to improve the mental state of this team? I'd like to think so, yes. But will he do that early enough in the season and get this team playing with an identity to show what they can do? I'm not sure. I think the first 10 rounds, if not more, are going to be a real roller coaster for Huddersfield.
Yeah, I definitely think they'll be in and around this mid-pack. I don't think they'll be worrying about relegation. I think 8th place, I think, is fair for Huddersfield.
And I don't think they're really going to be trouble in the top 5 either myself this year.
Yeah, I agree. So, who's in 9th for you
then? Okay, I'll go first. In 9th place, I have Hull KR.
That's interesting.
This is a big claim.
Because I also have Hull KR in 9th place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose actually the only difference we've got here is what I said last time, that I actually think Hull KR could beat Hull FC this year.
Yeah, you did say that.
For me, this is the strongest Hull KR squad we have seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, definitely.
But what's more important is they've trimmed off all the championship garbage from this team, and the fact that they had 6 half-backs last year and none of them really set Super League alight.
Yeah.
This year, this looks like a much more well thought out team, and I think that's going to prove crucial. There's going to be a clear picture of who should be starting and who shouldn't, and that's going to really help them, I think, have that consistency to go forward and challenge in more games.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think they've definitely strengthened, and they've done probably what we said last season they should have done. Got rid of some players that were just sort of squad players that, I mean, yeah, they played, but, they maybe weren't setting the league alight. Brought in some real quality, and if all this quality sort of works together, it all kind of clicks, then I think there should be a solid team. Kind of put them in 9th, and we're saying there should be a solid team and all this good stuff about them. But they're in 9th, so should we be saying bad stuff about them? But no, I think they'll be clear of the bottom, sort of.
I think the thing is, about a lot of teams in ninth, and you'll see later on probably there are going to be some teams that we do say bad things about, but this is such a step forward for Hull KR, and if I was a Hull KR fan, I'd be a bit nervous in case things don't click, but I definitely think there's more of an identity and that the team's going in the right direction.
Yeah, if as a Hull KR fan, you'd definitely be happy in the business that's being made. Like, you'd be happy at the club seems to be wanting to take a step forward.
And I think they've finally again learnt the importance of good halfbacks. I mean, we saw with Drinkwater and even years ago Michael Dobson, the difference that it made when they lost those guys and replaced them with, say, Jamie Ellis and Ryan Braley that we had last year through certain games.
Yeah.
That's where I think you're going to see that quality come in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last year, you go through halfback combinations they had last year. You know, they had...
Please don't, we'll be here till like 2 a.m.
They had, you know, Jamie Ellis, Ryan Braley, Abdul, Keys, Mikey Lewis coming through as well. Like, they had all them sort of players. They didn't get any consistency there. Hopefully this year they can kind of get a bit of consistency there. Hopefully for them. I mean, 9th place, I think as a Hull KR fan you maybe take that.
I would.
Yeah, I think I would. Especially, I think we're saying the 9th. Not that they're going to not be in 12th by like 2 points or something. We think they're going to be probably a decent bit clear of the bottom. For me anyway. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think they'll be. I think they'll probably be nearer to the bottom than they will the top. But
I think they'll just be dead middle. To be honest, I think
they'll probably be about 4 points or so behind this Huddersfield, Salford, Castleford, maybe Catalan battle, which is for 5th and taggers on. But I equally think they're going to be a 2 or 4 points clear than what I've got left as my bottom 3.
Yeah. So let's get on to that bottom 3. Who have you got in 10th?
I've got Leigh in 10th.
Right, this is interesting because there's one team that I've put high up that you are. So you have Salford quite high up. I'm putting them in 10th. Basically, the loss of Watson, like I was saying before, I'll touch on this when I got to him. The loss of Watson, I think, is going to be big for him. Yeah, they've signed Patton, and that's a really big upgrade in that midfield halfback combination. And I just think, you know, I don't know if it'll be a case of they'll be fighting relegation, you know, in that relegation battle. But I don't think they're going to trouble top 5, and I feel like they're just going to battle a bit with Hull KR really in that 9th, 10th spot for me. Anyway, but go on about Leigh.
Not smiling at what it's going to take to keep them in the Super League.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Like, when you look at what London did a few years ago, they had a squad I think that was worse than what Leigh have now, and they so nearly survived. I mean, yes, they had some rub of the greens, but I mean, what team doesn't over the course of the season, particularly at that bottom end? There's normally 1 or 2 games you think, you know, you happen to hit one of the big clubs a week before they've got a Challenge Cup final or something stupid. They're definitely capable of hanging, I think, with the bottom of this Super League, and I don't necessarily think we're going to go into this season, thinking that Leigh are going to be the one team that's going to be detached off the bottom and just trying to cling on to some sort of survival hope. I think they're there to compete.
Yeah, true. I think they've signed sort of players that have played in Super League before as well. Players that can only really strengthen depth, and you've got to think, like, people might look at Leigh signings and think, well, they haven't really brought in any huge, massive names that everyone knows about. But you've got to remember,
I don't think that's what they needed.
No, Leigh already had one of, if not the best squad in the championship. Maybe Toulouse had a better squad. But last season, obviously, we didn't play the full season, but on paper, their team last season was immense. Really. So, did they need that much strengthening, as people maybe think?
I don't think so. And I mean, last time Leigh were in Super League, if I remember right, they went down through the whole middle 8 system.
Yeah.
I don't think they finished bottom last time, and I think the squad they've got now is better than what they had then.
Yeah, they lost in £1 million game to Catalan, didn't they? I think it could have been different if that hadn't happened.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we'd have had a French team win at Wembley, but...
Yeah, well, definitely not.
But yeah, I do think they're definitely not necessarily bottom. Okay, so
11th. So this is, I guess.
Who have you got in 11th?
So I've got Leigh in 11th. So I guess what I kind of will say for League quickly before you say your 11th is, I'm essentially reiterating what you said. I don't think they're going to go down. I think they've brought a good enough squad. I don't think they'll be way clear. I think it's going to be a battle, but I think they're going to do what London couldn't, and they're going to just hang in there and stay on. And I think it's going to be exciting to watch, because I think this League team is going to be fun to watch. So that's all I've got to say on League.
Well, before I reveal who survives and who I think's for the drop, why do you think Wakefield will go down?
I guess, to be fair, I guess we better put it all together. Why I think Wakefield will go down? Because they've lost a lot of players that have been there a long time, that were they might not have been sort of champagne players. I mean, Brough in his day was, but they're going to miss
his day was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, but he's still a good player. Like they've brought in Lino, who you don't know how good he's going to be. I feel like they've lost a lot of players that some people might be like, yeah, they've trimmed off a bit of deadwood and sent them down to Championship, but them players could be really integral to how Wakefield play, and I guess we just have to wait and see. But I think Wakefield over the last couple of years have just really not got going, and I think this year is going to be the same. I think they're going to go down, to be honest, and I think it's kind of been a thing that people have been seeing coming for the past few years, if you know what I mean. It's been coming, I think.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it's obvious that my final two is between Hull FC and Wakefield. A team that, like you say, in Wakefield, we expect to be down here, and a Hull FC side that, in my opinion, will massively underperform. I'm actually going to keep in suspense a bit longer and go through both why I think they'll have difficult seasons before I reveal who's going to come out on top, in my opinion.
Yeah, go for it.
Like you say with Wakefield, I do think they have trimmed off a lot of the dead wood, actually. I think the key problem, though, is they've also lost a lot of leadership. And that's what I think. I think the quality of the team's potentially going to get better, but without that mental strength, are they going to be able to hold on to games? We talked about this fragility with Huddersfield. I think Wakefield could also suffer with this problem. Yeah, and like you say, who knows what Lino's going to bring to Super League? He could be a brilliant halfback that sets everything up for them and gets himself into Dream Team.
Yeah, it could be a Jackson Hastings. We don't know.
Yeah. Or he could be Tim Smith, Mark II.
Yeah, that's his ceiling versus his floor, I guess.
That was a terrible joke. And at least it's not me that makes the terrible dad puns on this show. And anyway, and on to Hull FC. I actually would argue that they have a very weak squad this year. I think they've lost a lot of key personnel. And again, how good is Reynolds going to actually be? Because this is the problem when I think you invest a lot of your squad in a big new arrival that's never played in this country before. He's had his injury problems, he's had his personal problems since leaving South Sydney and kind of floating around a little bit. And yes, he kind of got a bit of a second wind, but there's a reason that he has not been snapped up by an NRL club, let's be honest.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying they'd have been better going for Benji Marshall. I do not think that would have improved their chances in the slightest, actually. But I think both these clubs are heavily reliant on an Australian import that they don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So, go on.
They both have thin squads. It's going to be Brett Hodgson versus Chris Chester, I think, in terms of who actually survives. But for all Chester's experience, I don't think it's going to be enough. I have Wakefield in 12th to go down and Hull FC to just survive in 11th.
But do you reckon it'll be close?
I think it will be quite close, yeah. I think Hull are going to be bottom for a decent chunk of the season, but I think it'll start to click in that second half, and it's probably going to come down actually to who wins those head-to-heads, in my opinion. Yeah, if Wakefield can take some big points, especially at the KCOM, then this could easily flip for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I think definitely, looking at our tables, I think a team that you're sort of saying will underperform is Hull FC.
Definitely.
And a team that I'm potentially saying will overperform is, I don't know, maybe Hull FC. I feel like Hull FC are such an unknown entity. I have them quite high. I mean, I have Hull FC in 7th place. You have them in 11th, so that's such a big difference. That's kind of the biggest difference in ours. Otherwise, it is very similar.
I mean, I think the thing that set Hull FC apart probably 3 or 4 years ago was the pack. And that's kind of starting to go, or the players that have got in just haven't lived up to the hype. I mean, Manu Mao was fantastic for Parramatta and had a strong opening season, but I think the problem is now I look at that pack and he's largely the only one that particularly stands out.
Yeah, I mean, they've got like Sao and that sort of thing that they signed last season, but again, I don't know if they hit the ground.
See, I think he underperformed last season. I expected more from a player of Lee Sao's size.
Yeah, well, I guess we have to see.
Be making more meters than he did for me, and I think these are the sort of things that if Hodgson wants to prove me wrong and steer clear of this battle, he's going to have to find those extra 5 meters out of a player.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think Hodgson could hit the ground running as a coach and be amazing. He could have almost like, they say, like beginner's luck, that sort of thing. I guess it's not beginner's luck. He's not a beginner necessarily, but you know what I mean.
But
like,
that new manager bump where you don't know how they're going to play exactly, so it's harder to prepare for.
Yeah, 100%. That's potentially, but I think that's what I mean. Hull FC are such an unknown entity, and I can't wait to see him play. Actually, to be honest, I'm really looking forward to the season starting.
Yes, I mean, I think it's going to hinge a lot on Reynolds, who for me, this is going to be a weird comparison, but Josh Reynolds is their Rangi Chase for me. He could be the magic player that wins Man of Steel and sends Hull potentially as high as 5th if things really go well. Or if he's busy playing one style of rugby and the rest of the team ain't got a clue what he's doing, then he could be setting up more tries for their opponents than for his own team.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very much so. So I think you guys can let us know. Do you agree with the tables that we've put, the predictions?
Probably not.
Have we put your team too low? Have we put your team too high? What have we got wrong? What teams do you think are gonna surprise people? What teams do you think are gonna underperform? That sort of thing. If you haven't already, check out last week's pod where we go through all the signings, all the outgoings, and sort of overview the different changes each team's made and that sort of thing. Next week we are going to have our individual awards. Who's going to win the Man of Steel? Who's sort of I guess out of the blue, sort of that people are thinking of pick for Man of Steel. Who's won that? Everyone thinks he's going to win Man of Steel, but we don't think is that sort of thing.
If anyone wants me to change my predictions before round 1, and I'm sure you're the same, we will consider backhanders. We're just like the RFL refs. We will take some payment to bump you up the table a bit.
Classic bit of referee slander there from that.
Hey, come on, we've got to get it in preview. We're going to talk about it enough this year.
Yeah, so and as well, a little side note as well, our Saturday videos. Last Saturday we did the home kits from Super League, we ranked them. This Saturday we're doing the away kit, so make sure subscribe so you're around for that. And other than that, anything to add on the end, Matt?
No, just I could shout at a few clubs, but let's leave that for now. We'll save that for next time, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and see you later.